All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. So today we're going deep, like really deep into Theranos.
Ooh, exciting.
It is, right? It's one of those stories, it's almost too crazy to be true.
Yeah, you almost think it's like a movie or something.
Exactly. And we're using the American Scandal podcast episode on Theranos as our guide here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they did a great job with that one.
Really good. Really good. And basically, we're trying to figure out, like, how did this company that seemed so revolutionary
Right.
end up crashing and burning so spectacularly?
Yeah, it's a wild ride for sure.
It is. It is. So we got to start, I guess, with Elizabeth Holmes, right?
Oh yeah, she's the heart of it all.
Stanford dropout, starts Theranos at 19, wants to reinvent blood testing, the whole thing.
I mean, that's a pretty bold move, right?
Yeah.
Dropping out of Stanford.
I know. Like, did she know something we didn't?
Well, maybe she thought she did.
Maybe, maybe. But she becomes this icon, right?
Oh, totally. Compared to Steve Jobs, covers of magazines, youngest self-made female billionaire.
It's crazy. I mean, she had it all, or so it seemed.
Yeah, and the promise of Theranos. That was huge too.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Painless blood tests, just a drop of blood, faster diagnoses, cheaper.
It was supposed to change, like, everything about healthcare.
Right. It felt like the future was, right around the corner.
But then, uh-oh, those cracks start to show, right?
Right. Right.
So we've got John Carreyrou. He's a reporter at the Wall Street Journal.
Okay, yeah, he's the one who really broke the story open.
Big time. So he gets this tip from a physician, Adam Clapper, and Clapper's noticing some weird stuff with Theranos.
Like, what kind of weird stuff?
Well, for one, there's no peer-reviewed data.
Ah, yeah, that's a red flag.
Huge red flag. It means their tech hasn't been independently verified.
Which, for a medical company, that's kind of important.
Kind of. And then you've got Elizabeth Holmes, who, she's brilliant, but
Not exactly a chemical engineer.
not exactly, no. So people are starting to get suspicious.
Understandably. I mean, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And Carreyrou, he's trying to get to the bottom of it, but he's hitting a wall.
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of his sources, they're tied up in lawsuits with Theranos, scared to talk.
Oh, wow. So there's this fear of retaliation.
Big time. But then he gets in touch with Alan Beam. That's a pseudonym. But Beam was a former lab director at Theranos.
Okay, so this is someone who's seen the inside.
Oh, yeah. He's seen it all. And what he tells Carreyrou is shocking.
So what's the scoop?
Basically, he says the Edison devices, those revolutionary blood analyzers, they weren't working.
Wait, what? They weren't working at all?
Not as advertised, no. They were using third-party equipment, diluting blood samples, all kinds of stuff to try and make it work.
Oh, man, that's bad.
Really bad because, inaccurate test results, that could have serious consequences.
Absolutely. People could be misdiagnosed, get the wrong treatment. It's scary.
Totally. And get this, Beam had to delete incriminating emails as part of a legal settlement with Theranos.
Wow, so they were actively trying to cover things up.
It seems that way, yeah. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks.
Oh, man, this is getting good. So what happens next?
Well, that's where Tyler Schultz comes in, but we'll get to him after the break. Okay, so we've got Alan Beam spilling the beans about the Edison devices.
Yeah, not painting a pretty picture.
Not at all. And now we've got Tyler Schultz entering the scene. He's the grandson of, wait for it, George Shultz.
No way. The former Secretary of State.
The one and only. And get this, George Shultz was on the Theranos board.
Oh, wow. So this is getting, really close to home.
Super close. And Tyler, he actually worked at Theranos for a bit.
So he's seen things firsthand, too.
Oh, yeah, he's got an inside view. And he starts to get really worried about what he's seeing.
I bet. I mean, his own grandfather is involved.
Exactly. And he's concerned about those inaccurate test results, the potential harm to patients.
Right. It's not just a business problem anymore. It's people's health.
Exactly. But, speaking out against Theranos, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. They had a reputation for being aggressive, silencing critics.
Totally. So Tyler's hesitant at first, right? He doesn't want to cause trouble, especially for his grandfather.
I can imagine it's a tough spot to be in.
It is. But he can't stay silent, He knows something's wrong, something needs to be done.
So he decides to go to Carreyrou.
He does, yeah. And he's got the receipts, too.
What do you mean?
He saved emails, correspondence with the New York Department of Health, all kinds of stuff.
Wow. So this isn't just hearsay. He's got hard evidence.
Oh, yeah. This is the real deal. And it backs up what Beam was saying, that Theranos was misleading regulators.
So now Carreyrou, he's got two whistleblowers, solid evidence. He's ready to publish.
Oh, yeah. He's going for it. But Theranos, they're not just going to roll over.
I wouldn't think so. They've got a lot to lose.
Big time. So they try to discredit Carrie Rue, they threaten lawsuits, they pull out all the stops.
Classic power move, trying to shut down the story before it even gets out.
Exactly. And get this, they even try to go to Rupert Murdoch himself.
Murdoch, the guy who owns the Wall Street Journal.
The very same. And remember, he was also a major investor in Theranos.
Oh, wow. So that's a huge conflict of interest.
Huge. But to his credit, Murdoch says no. He tells Holmes to take it up with the editors.
So he's not letting his financial stake influence the reporting.
Nope, he's standing by his journalists. And that's a good thing.
It is. It means the truth still matters, even when it's inconvenient.
Exactly. But Theranos, they're not giving up. So they arranged this meeting with Wall Street Journal editors.
Okay, so they're trying to, reason with them, maybe get them to back down.
Something like that, yeah. But during that meeting, they make a huge mistake.
What do?
They admit to using third-party technology.
Whoa, wait a minute. Didn't they claim their whole thing was this revolutionary Edison device?
That's what they said. But
Yeah.
now they're admitting that it wasn't what they claimed it to be.
So their core technology, their whole selling point, was a lie.
Pretty much, yeah. In the Wall Street Journal, they're like, okay, game over.
I mean, what else can Theranos say at that point?
Nothing. So the Journal gives Holmes one last chance. They say, do an interview with Carrie Rue, come clean, or we publish.
It's an ultimatum, right?
Yeah.
Clear as day.
Totally. But Holmes, she refuses.
Really, she's still trying to control the narrative at this point.
She is. But it's too late. The truth is out. And the consequences are about to hit her like a ton of bricks.
So the Wall Street Journal, they published the story, and then what?
It's like a bomb goes off. The whole house of cards comes crashing down.
Oh man, this is where it all falls apart.
Big time. Theranos' reputation is destroyed, investigations are launched, lawsuits are flying everywhere.
And Walgreens, they were a big partner, right?
Huge. They sued Theranos, ended their partnership, the whole thing.
Ouch. That must have been a major blow.
It was. And remember Maureen Glantz, the patient we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the one who had that scary misdiagnosis because of Theranos.
Right. Her story and others like it, they start to come out, and it becomes clear that this isn't just about a failed business.
It's about real people who were harmed,
Mm.
potentially seriously harmed.
Exactly. And it highlights the courage of those whistleblowers, Beam and Schultz.
They risked a lot to come forward, but they did the right thing.
They did. But what about Holmes? How does she react to all this?
Well, that's the crazy part. She's defiant. She's still denying everything.
Even with all the evidence against her.
Even then, she gives this speech to her employees, and she's painting herself as a victim.
Like she's the one who's been wrong.
Exactly. She's comparing Theranos to Apple and Google, saying they faced setbacks too, but they eventually succeeded.
So even as her company is imploding, she's still clinging to this idea of being a revolutionary.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And even more surprising, her employees, they believe her.
They rally around her, they chant against the Wall Street Journal. It's almost like a cult of personality.
Wow, so this isn't just about a company, it's about the power of belief, even when it's misplaced.
It is. And that's, I think, what makes this whole story so fascinating and so disturbing.
It is. It really makes you think about, what we choose to believe and why.
It does. So we've seen the rise, we've seen the fall, but what are the deeper lessons here? What can we learn from all of this? We'll explore that and more after the break.
So it's crazy to me, all those employees, they still believed in Elizabeth Holmes, even after everything came out.
It's really something, isn't it?
It is. I mean, how do you explain that?
I think, part of it is the whole Silicon Valley culture.
What do you mean?
Well, it's all about disruption, right? Breaking the mold, thinking big.
Yeah.
So you've got all these people who are already predisposed to believe in, like, these grand visions of the future.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you add someone like Elizabeth Holmes to the mix.
Who's, super charismatic, super convincing.
Exactly. And she's selling this incredible story, revolutionizing healthcare, saving lives.
It's like, who wouldn't want to believe that?
Right. And especially for investors, the potential payoff is huge.
Oh, yeah, they're thinking billions. Exactly. So maybe they were a little willing to overlook some red flags.
I guess so, yeah. It's like they got caught up in the hype.
Totally. And Holmes, she was really good at creating that hype. The Steve Jobs image, the powerful
It
connections.
all adds up, right? You start to think maybe she really is the next big thing.
And even when the doubts start creeping in, it's hard to let go of that belief.
Yeah, it's like you've already invested so much emotionally, financially, you want to believe it's true.
Exactly. It's called confirmation bias, right? You look for information that confirms what you already believe.
Ah, so that's why even when the Wall Street Journal came out with their expose, some people just dismissed it.
Right. They thought, oh, it's just the media trying to tear down a successful woman, a disruptor.
It's amazing how much we can delude ourselves, you know?
It is. It is. I think there's a part of us that wants to believe in those stories, the myths of innovation.
Yeah, like the underdog who triumphs against all odds.
Exactly. And Silicon Valley is like the perfect breeding ground for those kinds of stories.
It is, it is. But Theranos, it's a reminder that those stories don't always have a happy ending.
Definitely. It's a cautionary tale. Innovation without integrity, it's dangerous.
It is, it is. And it makes you think about, the role of regulators, the investors, everyone who's supposed to be keeping an eye on things.
Absolutely. I mean, how did Theranos get away with this for so long?
It's a good question. And it makes you realize that we all have a responsibility to be skeptical, to ask questions.
Definitely. We can't just blindly trust. We need to think critically, especially when it comes to something as important as healthcare.
Absolutely. So I guess the big takeaway here is, buyer beware.
Yeah, and think for yourself.
Exactly. Don't get caught up in the hype. Do your research and don't be afraid to question things.
That's the best way to protect yourself and to make sure that innovation is actually serving humanity, not just greed.
Well said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Theranos. It's been a wild ride, folks.
It has, it has. But it's been an important one, I think.
I agree. So keep those critical thinking caps on, everyone, and we'll see you next time.